ॐ निरञ्जनं नित्यमनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमिड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः. Namaste everyone and welcome to our study of the Bhagavad Gita. We are studying chapter 13, Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. The discrimination between the Kshetra, the field, and the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. Kshetra, Prakriti, Kshetrajna, the Purusha. So, why is there to be a separation and discrimination? Because in ignorance, the Atman, which is pure consciousness, has become identified with Prakriti. Prakriti is made out of these 24 cosmic principles, which have been described as the external world, and that out of which our own body, mind, and ego have been projected or constructed out of. Somewhere, that I sense that we experience within ourselves, which has its origin in the Supreme Being, Paramatman, has become identified with these things of this world, with a sense of mine, my house, my children, my family, my money, all that. And then subjectively or internally, it has become with a sense of I. So when I say I talk about my body, my qualification, my experience, my state of mind, my happiness, my misery. All these are not really the I. Those are the qualities of Prakriti which have become superimposed on the Purusha, and this mix-up is the cause of all problems. So while Prakriti is constantly changing, the Purusha, in its ignorance, thinks that itself is changing, in the sense that it is coming, it's going, it's born, it's dying, it's becoming old, and also the exchanges that are happening in the mind, that is also appropriated by the Purusha to itself. So if there's a vritti, a change in the mind space, which releases or unfolds the inner bliss of the Atman, the bliss of course belongs to the Atman, the Purusha thinks that these are the changes of Prakriti and therefore it is happy or unhappy. Really, those changes are happening in Prakriti. So the secret of freedom according to Sri Krishna is how to disentangle ourselves from this mix-up and to abide in our own pristine purity, the Atman nature, Satchid Ananda. That is my divine true self, my higher self. That's the reality. Everything else is something that is superimposed on that, and those superimpositions cover the reality. And the thicker the superimposition, the less the inner light of the Atman shines through. The inner bliss becomes little happiness. The infinite knowledge or omniscience of the Atman becomes little sense knowledge that we all experience. The eternity or immortality of the Atman is experienced as some limited life, and so on and so on. When the jiva, after trying to find its true nature in the external world, that means is trying to find happiness in this world, trying to find infinite knowledge in this world, trying to find infinite freedom, beauty, purity, goodness, fails after so many attempts, not on this lifetime, but many lifetimes. Out of all those experiences, some pleasant, mostly unpleasant ones, those are the better teachers, the soul becomes wiser. And what is that wisdom? The ultimate wisdom which the soul sort of collates or extracts out of so many lives of experience is that there is no permanence in this world. Everything is so transitory. You get a little bit, it slips out. But it cannot give up that eternal quest for permanent or eternal or infinite happiness, knowledge. And so, eventually, after seeking here and there and everywhere, not finding that whatever it is seeking for, actually seeking for his own true self, then he goes inwards within himself. And that return journey, where the U-turn is made, that is the starting point, what is called Vairagya. And the return journey is called Nivritti, where the soul, Purusha, begins to abandon all these transitory supports it was trying to acquire, or through which it was trying to acquire its true nature. And that ultimate disentanglement or separation leads to what is called freedom, where the Purusha abides in its own pristine purity, beauty. That is the way in Sankhya philosophy it has been taught. And this Bhagavad Gita is actually based on the Sankhya philosophy. The Purusha is separate from Prakriti. Prakriti is made of these three gunas. Three gunas go forward and subdivide and become these 24 cosmic principles. And so Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga is that technique or that teaching through which that knowledge is given, as well as also the practice through which the Purusha launches itself, so to say, or engages itself in that sincere quest to disentangle itself from this attachment, identification with this body-mind complex and with things outside. Of course, the mind has been conditioned so severely in this lifetime and previous lifetime that it is easier said than done, but that is the only way to eternal peace, purity, and beauty. So let us continue our studies of the chapter 13, and we were around verse 29. What was the 29th verse was saying? Before that, there are these two beautiful verses which I like so much. And these are not simple verses, these are things to meditate on. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashyastu avinashyantam yapashyati sapashyati yapashyati sapashyati. So this comes in the Gita in a couple of places where Sri Krishna is saying, truly spiritual seeing is different from seeing through the mind and the eyes only. That insight that comes from a opening of the eye of knowledge and through realization is what is meant. So samam sarveshu bhuteshu, equally present in all beings. Who is present? Tishtantam parameshwaram, the supreme being, the Paramatma, resides equally in all beings. His manifestation is more or less in different beings depending on the nature of the covering, and the coverings are made out of these three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Where sattva is predominant, there we see his divine manifestation more, and where tamas is predominant, that is more hidden. And this entity, Parameshwaram, is the avinashyantu. That means is the unperishable entity abiding in perishable things. Body, mind, complex, everything is perishable. Behind that is the foundation, the screen on which the whole movie is rolling through. And this creation manifestation is something like that on the screen, or the substratum of the supreme being, which is unchanging, avinashyastu. On that, that is the substratum on which all these changes are happening. He who sees in this way really sees. Ya pashyati, sapashyati. So now and then you should ask yourselves, do we see? Do we see spiritually? So when you go out there, out in the crowd, at work, in everywhere, you have to now and then check yourself. And the moment you bring this knowledge, you'll find that so many things that agitate the mind, anger, not liking somebody, being judgmental, having so many views and opinions and all those things, they simply fall off the mind because you have gone to the foundation or substratum and saying, well, if the divine being dwells in all beings, who am I to judge anyone? As simple as that. And not having very strong opinions, not having strong likes and dislikes, the ego is then sublimated. So this is to be meditated on, to be practiced as much as possible wherever The second verse, samam pashyanniha sarvatra samavasthitam ishwaram na hinaste atmana atmanam tato yati param gatim. Since by seeing equally God who is present alike everywhere, he does not do any injury to himself, abiding in other beings also, therefore attains to the supreme goal. The supreme goal, of course, is like becoming the ocean. The jiva, to become the ocean, has to give up that wave nature and merge itself. And when it merges into the ocean, then he finds that he is equally present in all beings. And therefore, if he did do some injury out of ignorance when he was in the wave state, actually he did harm to himself, because there's no other than that. In very simple language, the Holy Mother gives her last beautiful, wonderful advice to one of her devotees. She says, so my child, if you want peace of mind, do not seek anyone else's faults. See your own faults, rather. Learn to make the whole world your own. No one is a stranger. You see, this whole Vedanta is so beautifully taught in a very simple language. Learn to make the whole world your own. And the only way we can do that is to first identify ourselves with that universal being whom we call the Paramatman, who abides in all beings. And then naturally you will feel that all are yours and you are belonging to them. That is the spiritual living or spiritual goal. And then we had a look at this particular verse. Prakriteva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvasha ya pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sapashyati. Ya pashyati sapashyati again has come here. And he who sees actions being done in various ways by nature, Prakriti itself, and also the self as the known agent, the Purusha as the eternal witness, the Sakshi, such a person truly spiritually sees. So, this eternal witness nature, to be a spectator, to see everything without jumping into the action, without identifying ourselves with things, that is how an enlightened person would observe the world. Some of these qualities that are being described here and there are not really possible to experience directly, but that is what an enlightened person would experience. So now and then, since we are also seeking enlightenment, we should try to ask us, if I were an enlightened being, how would I see these things? Would I react to this? The answer would be no. Would I be judgmental? No. I would be a simple witness, watching things without any attachment to what is happening, and therefore I am able to keep myself separated from the outcomes that might be there, success and failure. For example, if there's a football match, the two teams are playing, and you don't have any loyalty or any particular fan of any club team, so you'll just watch the game and enjoy the game itself. Whichever player plays or team plays in a beautiful way, you'll like that. You don't have any desire that a particular team should win and another should lose. That would be being a witness, and you'll enjoy the game more than somebody who has got is sort of wants a particular team to win, and if his team wins, he's so happy, and if his team loses, he becomes so miserable. The outcome of the game actually dictates his state of mind, happiness, and misery. So, when we become attached to something, we surrender our freedom to the outcome of that person, that event or activity, or to a person. And that, in a way, to put it very strongly and crudely, even, is that type of slavery. It's we surrender ourselves, squander our freedom to something, and then only that person or that event or that situation is empowered to affect us. And the only way to be free from the control or the outcomes of things out there, people out there, is to detach ourselves. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, non-attachment is one of the central themes. To detach our minds. And how to do that? Do you become cold-hearted, indifferent to others' sufferings, feelings, and all those things? No, that is not spirituality. And that is what is not meant to be taught here. It is to be done in a spiritual way through knowledge. And what is that? You surrender. You first, we have to surrender our own ego. It's not about surrendering or renouncing other things externally. That is so easily done. One can leave things, people, and go and retire into the forest. But the attachments in the mind will continue. What is recommended or taught in the spiritual path to be renounced is one's own ego and one's attachment to things. And how is that done? By submerging this ego into that universal consciousness. Let the ego become smaller and smaller and smaller. Let the wave become smaller and smaller and smaller. And when the wave is no more, mysteriously or interestingly, it has become that infinite ocean of consciousness. And then in that full universal, in the awareness of that universal consciousness, you find all the waves are part of you. And now you can interact with them as your very own self. So that is what is really meant by renunciation. And without renunciation, liberation or freedom is impossible. Tyagena eva amritatvam ashnute. Immortality is to be attained through renunciation. But renunciation is sometimes understood by most people as giving up something up. A painful way of you're attached to it, but you're forcefully giving it up and it troubles you. That is not renunciation. Renunciation is described beautifully by Swami Vivekananda as giving up of the microcosm, aiming for the macrocosm. Giving up of something finite when you're seeking the infinite. Giving up this attachment or identification to the wave, ego that we are, body mind complex that we are, by merging into that ocean. That is what true renunciation is. It's an expansion of our heart, of our awareness, of our consciousness. So, seeing everything in this world as a witness, whatever is there, to be detached and watch. That itself is a wonderful, is a type of spiritual practice. It's called Sakshi Bhava. Sakshi means witness. You are just watching things. And it itself is a wonderful spiritual discipline, that vigilance, if it is there in one's own mind, that's called apramada. Apramada means constant alertness to the spiritual ideal. It's as you practice your japa and meditation, what happens is that your sattva quality increases, gets enhanced. In that sattvic mind, the spiritual knowledge and teachings that we are studying and meditating on, they become much stronger. And in the light or with the help of that knowledge, we engage with the world, with people and activities in a more enlightened way, so to say, spiritually enlightened way. That mind is the real friend in the spiritual journey. And when that sattva quality is developed, one of the things that faculties that become stronger in us is the faculty of buddhi, the power of discrimination. That is really a product of sattva guna. And when that is developed, then we are constantly alert. The sword of discrimination is sharp, and you are constantly slicing through everything that comes through. That means the world appears to us in one way, through as presented to us by the senses, but the sword of knowledge, with the help of that power of discrimination, we see through the facade, through the names and forms, uh, with the eye of understanding or eye of spiritual knowledge, the reality that's behind the name and form. So if you see so many people out there, in an ignorant way, we will say they are male, female, black, brown, white, whatever, all those external forms. But if you have the spiritual knowledge, you will say, okay, behind all of them is that same divine being. And you just watch them without being any judgment. Just observe the divine play, and good, bad. You don't engage. That would be the Sakshi Bhava. But the moment you lose your footing out of that, then your mind becomes judgmental. It likes or dislikes, and that's where it's thrown into uh, a tumultuous ocean of so many thoughts and ideas, and that's where we lose our footing. So that is the challenge as a spiritual practice, living in this world but being not of this world. Today let us look at verse 30. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekastham anupashyati tateva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. Yada, when one realizes that the state of diversity of living beings is rooted in the one, and that their manifestation is also from that one, then one becomes identified with Brahman. Okay, so this other two verses, samam pashyanhi sarvatra samavasitam ishwaram, those two verses are actually telling the same thing here, or this verse is basically repeating it another way. There, yada, when anupashyati, one realizes, what is that? That all this is but the self. That means, let's use that example of the ocean and the wave. The ocean is that one, and the many are the waves. Prithak bhavam, diversity. Prithak means separated from one another. So when you look at the waves, then one wave is definitely different from another in size, in place, and all those type of things. Likewise, all beings, human beings, plants, animals, all are different from the other in different names and forms and different manifestation of their power in there. Yet they are all rooted in the one. So the waves might be different, but they are all rooted in that ocean. What we want to do is to keep that idea of that ocean predominant and let the ideas, the thoughts of differences of the waves subside away. The predominant thing, concept would be there's one universal consciousness out of which this whole universe has been projected. That consciousness is the reality. Everything is an appearance of the reality. So the Sanskrit meaning is given there. Yada is when. So it happens at a particular time, the time of enlightenment. Anupashyati, one realizes that. What does one realize? The prithak bhava, the state of diversity of living beings, bhuta, ekastham, eka sthitam. Eka means one, sthita means to be established or rooted. So it is established in the one, or it has come out of that one. And their manifestations, this whole variety of all living beings that are there, not only in this our own plane of existence, in all of the seven planes, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, Mahajana, Tapa, Brahma, Loka, all gods and goddesses and everything are rooted or established or are a manifestation from there. Tata eva, from that eva, tata means from. Eva means also from that. Then tada sampadhyate, one becomes identified with Brahman. What is Brahman? Brahman is that infinite universal consciousness. Brihat. The word Brihat means vast. So let's go back and think of that particular experience of Manmathanath Ganguli. That's a nice one to reflect on now and then, where he is somebody who isn't a sadhaka or anything like that, but by the grace of his spiritual teacher, he could go beyond the ordinary experience of this world, the sense-bound experience that we are all familiar with. He's sitting on the bank of the Ganges, looking at the river, the trees, and the buildings and everything. And then something happens subjectively within by the power of his spiritual teacher who uplifts his mind. It's like a TV, you change to a higher frequency. What happens? The lower channel drops off and the new one appears. And this young man describes how everything began to vibrate in his vision, trees, plants, and that vibrations became more intense, and then suddenly everything disappears. Means they are still there. For another person who's sitting next to him, they still sees the trees and rivers. But for him, for this particular person, this subjective change happened. So The reason why I repeat this again and again is it should give you some insight as to what you should expect in through your own sadhana. When you're sitting and meditating every day, we are trying to lift our mind to this higher plane of consciousness. And that is what is real spiritual progress. So the mind becomes subtle, more sattvic, it can vibrate at a higher plane. And when it does, then you will find that the external world automatically disappears. You don't have to bother too much about it. It just disappears, but this whatever was the reality reappears in another form. So he experiences vibration in his own mind, and then suddenly everything is merged in that ocean of consciousness. There and then, he did not have to die and go to some Brahmaloka. He did not have to leave this body and climb somewhere. Like we say, God is up there. There's no up there. Up there here means the higher level of consciousness, higher frequency of being. The reality is here and now, but in another plane. What we are, our problem is that we are sort of anchored in this cross physical plane only. We shift out of it now and then, like when you go to sleep or in the dream world or in deep sleep, but that doesn't happen through our own conscious control. Through sadhana, we are trying to get that power of the mind to lift it up to a higher plane. And as you lift it, change the frequency of your TV, mental TV, all these 7 channels that are there, and different stations appear, and you have all these visions and all those type of things. But ultimately, all the colors in the rainbow are actually out of that one white light. That white light contains within it everything, and that is what Brahman can be sort of hinted at. It's an actual experience. When the mind comes down again, then the whole world reappears in our vision and our experience. But after that experience, the experience is so powerful that one does not lose sight of that higher foundational truth. Then one comes back to this world, but he or she knows the reality of that consciousness as the real thing, as the reality, means it is the permanent thing, and everything else is an appearance on that reality. That person can again engage with the world, but in an enlightened way, and that is the power of self-realization. So, yada bhuta prathak bhavam ekastham anupashyati tateva cha vistaram brahma sampadhyate tata. That is the goal of life. And there's no freedom, no rest until we attain to that. We have to drive this idea of freedom, understand what it is really. It's not just escaping from some suffering of this world. For many people, freedom is, and the driving force is, this is too hot, too painful, let me get out of it somehow. Let me be free from this suffering. That is sort of a negative idea of freedom that you'll find in Buddhism, putting an end to this suffering. The positive idea is that state of freedom is so fantastic, so beautiful. That is so overpowering. I am that infinite being, limitless, birthless, deathless, the source of all beauty, purity, goodness, peace. If that is my wonderful nature, why am I stuck with this physical body, and why do I want to come back again and again to this? In this way, we have to psych ourselves, remind ourselves, and then if you read the lives of people who have saints and sages who have achieved that type of realization, and then you say, wow, that is so good. If I were in that situation or in that type of realization, how nice would it be? So you feed that idea, give that ideal of self-realization or freedom again and again to your mind, and at some point the mind says, I want that, and it becomes more and more drawn to that idea. And as that idea becomes brighter and brighter, living ideal, the ideal of self-realization, then the world will automatically drop away from your interest. You don't have to forcefully forsake it. And that is what is called mumukshatvam. Mumukshu is a person who is seeking freedom. So, And that happens through divine grace also. In the Vivek Chudamani, Acharya Shankara says, Durlabham Trayam Eva Etat Deva Anugraha Hetukam Manushattam Mumukshatvam Mahapurusha Samshraya. Durlabham, very difficult to get. Trayam Eva Etat, these three things. What are they and how does it happen? Deva Anugraha Hetukam, through the divine grace. What are they? Manushattam, a human birth. A human being is a special creation of the divine. The power of discrimination and reasoning that we apply in our everyday life can be enhanced to another level through which we can discover our spiritual nature. Second is mumukshatvam, the desire to be free. Everyone is not a mumukshu in this world. Most people are very happy with this world. Sab kuch set hai. That's what they say. By God's grace, everything is nice here. That is not what mumukshatvam is. Mumukshatvam is that how does it is one of the small uh, scriptures or treatise written by Acharya Shankara. It's called Vakyapadya. He says, Tapatraya arka santapta kaschid udvigna manasa samadhi sadhana yukta sadgurum paripruchyate. Tapatraya. Tapa means fire or sun. Traya, three things. Arka santapta. Arka means the sun. Santapta means being scorched by. So imagine there are three fiery suns in the sky and you are exposed to that. It's burning you. Very high temperature. Kaschit udvigna manasa. The mind is so agitated, so perturbed. When a person feels that heat of this world, there's no peace. What are these? Adi Adhyatmik, Adi Bhuti, Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik. These are the three sources of sufferings. That's why we say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti 3 times. Try to propitiate, let there be peace, peace, peace. Let these three be, may I be free from agitations and sufferings from caused by these three. Adhyatmik, Adhibhautik, Adidevik. Adhibhautik means external forces that is in the environment. Adidevik, forces of nature. We say, okay, floods, cyclones, earthquakes, all these things that happen around there that can really make us lose our peace of mind. That is Adidevik. Adibhautik, people and animals and those beings around there, your boss, your family, your neighbors, all those can really create a very unpleasant situation in our environment. And Adhyatmik is our own mind, our own self. That means your physical health, your mental health, all those things. So we are always disturbed, unsettled by these three forces that are out there. Natural forces, human beings and animals and all those things around there, and our own body and mind. So that's why we say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti 3 times. So when the mind is very much agitated through all these sufferings, when you're burning in this world, then such a person is looking for some place where they can find some shade, some solace, and that is found in the spiritual realm. Such a person seeks out a spiritual teacher, Sadgurum Paripruchyate. He goes to a teacher and says, can you please save me from this? That's how real spiritual awakening or seeking sort of starts. So here, the idea of that supreme being present here and now, beyond this world that is apprehended by us through our 5 senses and the mind. Beyond the mind, here and now, there exists an ocean of consciousness out of which everything has come, by which everything is sustained, into which everything will be resolved or merged. That ocean of consciousness is what is called Brahman, the limitless consciousness. And that is what we really are. That is what is our understanding of God or Paramatman. And divine incarnations, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Christ, Ramakrishna, are special manifestations of that ocean who come for the purpose of guiding, helping those spiritual seekers in that spiritual journey. So, when one realizes that the state of diversity of living beings is rooted in the one, and that the manifestation is also from that one, then one becomes identified with Brahman. Here is the sort of a definition of what is Brahmajnana. How would you know that you have attained the highest truth? When you have an experience like this. And then you ask the question, so where am I right now? You might feel, oh, it's a lot of distance, but the thing is, look, that is our divine birthright. We have to come to that sooner or later. And if you really are serious about it, hungry for it, then we'll put more time and effort in our sadhana and make some solid progress in that spiritual direction. Let us look at verse 31. The meaning, let's say. Being without beginning and without gunas, O Arjuna, this immutable Supreme Self does not act, nor is it affected, although dwelling in the body. The Brahman is that immutable being. Immutable means it's not changing. Mutation means something that is changing. Prakriti is changing, the waves are changing, but the ocean is a supreme, foundation. The water of the ocean is inside the waves. The form of the wave disappears, but the water is not destroyed. Sort of, that is how maybe we can use an analogy to understand. Anaditvat. Adi means beginning, Anadi means beginningless. So Brahman is beginningless. Because it's the concept of time is not present in the Supreme Brahman. Concept of time is something that is apprehended in the mind as an interval between two events. Just like distance is apprehended as a separation between two things, two events demark or give a sense of time, whether it's a tick-tock of a clock or sunrise and sunset or one other sunrise, that's your 24 hours. If there are no two changes, then we cannot really have any idea of time. So there's no time. Anaditvat, nirgunatvat. So the three gunas that are sattva, rajas and tamas, they are in Brahman, but they do not affect Brahman by their changes. How to explain this? Sri Ramakrishna says, a snake has poison. When the snake bites somebody else, that person might die. But do you ever wonder why doesn't that poison kill the snake itself? It's poisonous to something else, but it is not poisonous to the snake itself. So the three gunas have their existence in the Supreme Brahman, but they cannot affect the nature of the Brahman. They conceal it, but they cannot permanently modify it. So these are the two qualities of Brahman are there, anaditvat, being without beginning and without qualities. O Kaunteya, this Paramatma, Supreme Self, the Supreme Brahman, is immutable, avvaya. Although, so it is unchanging, although dwelling in a body-mind complex which is changing. So this is what happens when you're trying to explain the spiritual truths. You sometimes end up using a language that seems to be like a contradiction. In the Upanishads, is bigger than the biggest, is smaller than the smallest. Basically, it shows the inability of the human language to define something which is undefinable. So they use the two extremes like that. So here it says, the Brahman is itself immutable, like the ocean is there. It's always there, unchanging. Though, all the changes are appearing on that Supreme Brahman, like all the waves are being coming out of the ocean, changing constantly, yet the ocean itself is unchanging. So, sarirasthata means dwelling in the body. What is that? The I sense, that consciousness that we are feeling now. Where is its origin? Its origin is actually in the Supreme Consciousness. That example that is there, we have talked about in the past. Maybe let me put that together. Okay, so we talked about this one where the sun is in the sky. Okay, that's a Paramatman, and we put this bowl of water, and this sunrise come here. It creates a reflection. So when you're looking at that reflection, you're seeing a reflection. What is this in this analogy? The bowl is the body, the water is mind plus buddhi, and this reflection is the I sense that we feel, aham bhava. But the real I is the capital I, which is the Supreme Being. So use that example. So the I that we experience here is this particular I. And it says, I am, it becomes identified with the changes that are happening on the in the minds. I'm happy and unhappy, I know, I don't know, all that. Or it becomes identified with the body, and therefore you talk about your gender, your age, your birthday, and all those type of things, but really you're talking about the birth of the age of the body and not your own self. So this mix up here is Sharira Sthitam. Light coming from the sky, from the sun, falls on the water, creates a reflection which appears like the sun. It is round, it is shining, but it is not the sun. It's only a reflection of the sun. So, one of the things in our spiritual life, we have to remind ourselves that this ego that we feel is not the real thing. The ego that we feel is not the reality, but its source is the reality. Means the sun in the sky, that is the up there, which is the Paramatman. That is the reality. The rest is, you put 50 bowls of water, you get 50 reflections. If you destroy all the 50 bowls of water, there are no reflections. But it does not in any way affect the real sun in the sky. If the water shakes, the reflection seems to be shaking. And therefore, the states of the mind seem to are changing, and therefore we feel that the Atman is getting really affected. So in this way, this discrimination that I am not this little ego there, I am the real I. Nirvana Shatakam Acharya Shankara's beautiful stotra, Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham, starts with that. I'm not the mind, I'm not the buddhi, I'm not the chitta. Chitta is the mind stuff, neither the ego. Every time it says Chidananda Rupo Shivoham, Shivoham. Constantly trying to remind ourselves that we are that ocean or the sun in the sky. That is my true reality. The moment you bring that idea to your truth, the truth of that idea in your mind, you'll find that this little ego becomes less affected by the changes that are happening in the body, mind, and environment. That's how this spiritual knowledge is to be cultivated. So, although it seems to be dwelling in the body, it is not affected by it. Affected by the changes in the body. So, if the body is cut or dies or is hurt in any way, then Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna right in the beginning, the Atman is not cut by the sword, wet by the water, dried by the air. All those changes happen to the physical body, but not to the Atman. But if we don't have the discrimination, then we appropriate that change to ourselves and we say, oh, I'm dying, or I'm becoming old, and all that ignorance comes. So Yada, what was the verse? Yeah. Anaditvat, anirgunatvat, paramatma ayam avaya, sharirasthopi kaunteya, na karoti na lipyate. Even though it is dwelling in the body, it itself does not do anything, na karoti, na lipyate, is not affected by the changes that are happening in the body. Therefore, it is totally detached. That type of non-attachment to the body, that means you're living in the body, but you're not of the body. The boat is in the water, but the water is not in the boat. Or, as they say, a duck goes into the pond, swims, and then comes out and shakes all the water up. The water is like the duck back. It does not stick to it. That's how a supreme, a realized person is able to go into this world, do everything, and yet the world cannot touch it. That is, so here in these verses are described some of the qualities or some of the experience one has when one is in that state of highest realization. Okay. Would you like to pause here today and have some discussions, questions? That could be an idea. So you can put your mics on now. Say something, ask something.
Um, I don't know if it's relevant, but I
Don't
would.
ask like that question. Relevant, don't know. Ask freely, without
Okay.
fear, like that. Okay, yes.
So I was just reading this the Gospel of Ramakrishna, and I read, like you just mentioned, that the one who's enlightened um, comes down and is able to you know and act in the world and live as the other you know um, I really don't know how to put it. Um, but in the book, it says that if the one who's enlightened, I don't
Mm.
know, I could be wrong. Um, and it generally people don't come down, it seems, or not in the sense like they don't survive for long, or I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, yeah. So, yes. So, there are different categories of jivas.
That's samadhi.
So, mm,
That's why I say it's not probably relevant. It's too
it's all
you know
right. You can ask. So, there are different categories of jivas. One is called jiva koti, which are where we all normal people belong to. And a Jiva Koti is an ordinary sadhaka through his own Purushakara, sadhana, divine effort, and the grace of God. Oh, yeah, he somehow is able to attain samadhi, is able to realize himself, or merge himself, the wave merges into the ocean, so to say. He goes into samadhi, his individuality disappears. He remains in that what is called Jada Samadhi. For sometimes, for such people, they remain in this state for 21 days and then the body drops off. Well, if they have lost that consciousness of the body long time back, but just like a leaf from a tree drops off and they become forever merged in that ocean of consciousness. Sharavat, like water merging into, drop some water into the ocean, it becomes one with the ocean, doesn't come back again. There is another category of such people who are called Ishwar Kotis. And these are the ones that are endowed with some spiritual power that they can return from that state of samadhi, brahmajnana, and return to the body consciousness again. But they are still full of that knowledge of the Supreme Being. And the only reason they come back is they have some divine mission, which would be to bring that knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and help those who are spiritual seekers. So Sri Ramakrishna would say, and so incarnations belong to that category. They can go up into samadhi and come down, like you see in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Every moment he is merging. It's a wonderful, unique phenomenon in the history of mankind. Very rarely we see how many people who can daily go into samadhi and then come down and be back in the body and talk to everyone as if nothing has happened, so to say, and be full of that knowledge. That requires tremendous amount of spiritual power. It's only when the Divine Mother takes that form as an incarnation for the purpose of blessing. And sometimes they bring some great souls to assist them in their uh, mission. And that's where this Ishwar quote is. Like Swami Sri Ramakrishna used to say, 6 of his disciples were Ishwar quotes: Vivekananda, Brahmananda, Premananda, Yogananda, Niranjanananda, and Purna Chandra Ghosh. The others were very highly accomplished souls, but these 6 were Ishwar quotes. Anyway, so they come, and one is very fortunate to get their grace and help in our spiritual journey. That's why what they come for. Anyone else? No. Is it very difficult or is it very easy? I'm trying to understand. Samiran,
Namaste, Swamiji.
namaste. Today you're not asking any question.
Yeah. Sorry, my grandmother passed away today, so I was a bit
Oh,
with my family as well.
so sorry to hear about that. Our
No, that's all
condolences.
good.
But here you listen about this Bhagavad Gita and try to say,
Yes. Yes.
apply that. How does this knowledge help you? The light of spiritual knowledge help you overcome your grief. Of course, you'll feel that, but it has got a very purifying effect.
Of course.
Atman does
This is
not
why
die. Yes.
yeah, that's why I'm sort of listening to this lesson today. And
Yeah.
it's really good that you've come back. And I mean, I felt really good that when I got your message that you've come back. So yeah, I just wanted to convey that.
Okay. Well, meditate. Yeah. Meditate. Think out the Atman nature. Don't dwell too much on the darkness. Bring the light of knowledge in that. That's the hold on to that. That's how we can navigate through life in the light of knowledge. Satish, how about
Yes,
you?
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
What the previous speaker was saying about, I mean, this Samadhi one, isn't that some of the paths chosen by some saints to leave this world? I mean, they do it by purposefully.
Come again.
I mean, what the first speaker was saying about this Samadhi thing, and then they died and they die away. Isn't that one of the ways that some people purposefully or voluntarily choose that way? That's some of the Swamis or
Well, sometimes there are different categories are there. Sometimes they will, since you have disconnected yourself with the body, then it doesn't matter whether the body stays or little rolls on. So what happens is like the two wheels that are connected with the axle, and both of them run together. But if you cut off the axle, then the wheel will run on with its own momentum. And at some point, when that momentum has been, the energy has been dissipated, it rolls off and falls off. So the momentum of previous karma, prarabdha, and all that, because of which this body was constructed, that will go on, but there's no fresh impetus to it, and therefore it might linger for a while and then drop off. In some cases, you will see something like that. But from their perspective, they're already free from it. See, then they're just simple witness. This something is happening in the body and it will fall off, type of thing. They're not affected by those changes like we would do. So we'll see cases of such people, such are in the lives of some great realized souls and saints. you know, that
Yeah,
type of
that's right.
experience. Yeah. Yeah.
So in that case, like you said, 21 days like that, what? So what, the brain dies away, or the
Yes.
heart stops beating,
Ah,
or is
your,
something that
your,
we
your
that where you go?
prana, the brain doesn't die away. The prana departs. See, have you
Mm-hmm.
seen somebody die sometime?
Yeah,
Like going to the hospital and sitting somebody
yeah,
and you see, so what do
yeah,
you see? You know, हम लोग बोलता है प्राण त्याग दिया. You know,
yeah.
or the prana has departed from the body. But you see, it goes in a very systematic way. So you see that person is there talking in this, and then suddenly they become very, very quiet. The body stops moving. The prana has been withdrawn from the physical body. So, you know, but you can see the breath is going, the heart is still beating, they probably are still talking. After some point, the speech will stop. They become quiet. But the eyes are still blinking. They have a look in the ceiling here and there. But at some point, you see the blinking stops. They just have a blank stare out there. Then you will see the eyes will also close. I saw this happen the other day, somebody, and we were just watching, you know, a couple of days, and the eyes will close.
Mm-hmm.
That means the prana is now withdrawing away from the senses, the five senses. Okay, and then you'll find the breathing becomes deep and labored, and all that you can. And at some point, the breath stops. And chal basa hai. Eh, body becomes cold. So basically, there's a decoupling of the higher energies that were sustaining the body by revitalizing it, you know, and all that. When they disconnect, the body is deprived of that source of energy, and then decomposition and all that, it becomes cold, and that's how when we say that
Um,
it's death. Yeah.
and Swamiji, I mean, nowadays we've got, so many YouTube channels, popping up showing that, how they found, they were enlightened, they were spiritually awakened, their Kundalini was, and so on, and or probably through so many, and not necessarily through Kundalini, but probably like various japas or meditations
Yeah.
and the so on techniques that they. But is it that they haven't actually had the experience of obviously Nirvikalp Samadhi? It's just that they have just that the Agya Chakra is probably activated, or because, like as it says in the book, if it goes to Sahasrara Chakra, then it's not possible to, um, or is it possible to, uh, use your body till your karma, your prarabdha is not. Um,
So there are so many forms of that death. That one I described is just how an ordinary person decides. We have come across people who knew they are going to die or give the body up a couple of days beforehand, and they will tell beforehand. You know, they don't necessarily even have to be swamis or monks. One of our devotees came and told her mother had a cancer and all that, but she was a great, great devotee. And so on that particular day, she called everyone and told that you must take all your lunch early, before 10 o'clock. And then she called everyone and she said goodbye to each and everyone, called her husband, thank you very much for being my companion in my life, and this and that. And then she, in with full alert awareness, she just lay back, take the name of the Lord, and left the body. Finished just like that. That's also possible. So that type of mukti is called videha mukti. Mukti at the time of giving up the body. And the one where you are still in the body and doing everything but liberated, that is called Jivan Mukti. That means you are liberated, yet apparently from outside you are doing all those things.
Yes, Swamiji. So, like, Jivan Mukti is possible for anybody, not necessarily one has to be an incarnation. So, or
Incarnation is ever free. They are called Nitya Muktas. Ishwar
Nitya
Koti.
Muktas, every
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
So,
They're,
Jivan Mukti can be attained by anybody, and
yeah.
the samadhis. I hear there are 5 types of samadhis. I would really like if you could anytime just if possible.
Okay, some other time I will talk to you. This Jada Samadhi. And Samadhi is when your ego, your essence merges, the wave merges into the ocean. Okay. But whether that wave reappears back into the ocean and continues to play with the other waves around there, that is the Ishwar Koti category. They can do that. And some are there where it merges and that's it, gone and good. So there's so many categories and so many experiences. That's at the highest level, the Samadhi thing. That's an ideal that should inspire us and we should aim for something. But on a day-to-day basis, keeping that goal in front of us, how do we wrestle with this mind which is so far away, not fit for Samadhi? How do we make it fit for Samadhi? Type of thing. That is the real struggle. That's where the sadhana part comes. Disciplined, guided, intense, focused, sustained, patient and persevering. All those type of things are really basically we prepare the mind to be a non-mind, see, to go beyond these things. So there are a lot of books, for example, Acharya Shankara's Jivan Mukti, there's a book called Jivan Mukti Viveka. This talks about that subject only. Vivek Chudamani. There's another scripture that is there. But basically, they will keep on telling you so many ideas in so many words. How much you can understand intellectually, those are things of experience, isn't it? So we can say, let's not get too much of a headache out of trying to conceptualize it. What we want is the experience. Let's jump into the sadhana part of it, and otherwise it will be in only some understanding, only in one form or the other, isn't it?
True.
Yes, so sadhana. Ultimately, it comes down to all the scriptures. Is after reading all these books and everything, Sri Ramakrishna says, "What is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita?" Anyone can tell me the essence of the Bhagavad Gita in one word?
Tyagi.
Yes, so Gita. Keep on repeating it 10 times, the word becomes reversed. Tyaga. That is the whole essence of Gita. Giving up of this ego, this individuality, giving up this wave nature. Then only you can't be the wave in the ocean at the same time, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So are you ready to give up the wave nature? That's the question then. And all things that are holding it there. Oh, many people will say, let me think about it. It's not so nice. Maybe later on, slowly we'll give, maybe not now when we become old, or maybe in another lifetime. You see, such a grip it has there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there somebody there? I'm happy to give it now.
Complete surrender, Swamiji. Obviously, it's a divine plan that you've come to our life, so we can't miss it. We can't miss, stones for diamonds. No way.
Yeah,
Not this
everything is
lifetime.
possible through. See, there are so many types of what you call siddhi. Siddhi means enlightenment. Okay, so one is there called of course sadhana siddhi through spiritual practice. Practice. You attain some self-realization. Totapuri is an example. Sri Ramakrishna's guru. He practiced intense meditation for 40 years and he attained the Brahmagya. That is called sadhana siddhi. There's another one is called kripa siddhi. God's grace simply comes. That's it. In a flesh, you have that realization. How is that explained? If a room is dark, for 1,000 years, somebody comes and flicks on the switch. In an instant, all the darkness disappears. Okay, so that is called Kripa Siddhi. And there's a couple of others are there explained by Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospels. But they all have a culmination from some previous life sadhana. So there's a little story. One man was going through a jungle. Suddenly he heard a roar of a tiger. So he climbed up the tree. And from the top of the tree, he saw there was a clearing. In that clearing, some sadhaka, somebody was going to do some puja. He had got all these items for his puja and everything ready. And the tiger came and got hold of this fellow and took him away. So when the tiger had gone far away, this man got down from the tree. And he said, okay, well, everything is ready. Why don't I sit down and do the puja? So he sat down on the asana and started. And just as soon as he did a few things, the Divine Mother appeared in front of him and said, yes, what do you want? I am ready to give you a boon. He said, hold on, forget about the boon. Let me ask, my question is, that man arranged everything for his sadhana and everything, and the tiger came and took me. And I have no intention of doing this puja. I just chanced upon it, and I did a few things, and you suddenly appeared to me. You explain me that first. And the mother said, my child, so much tapasya I have done in your previous lifetime. And this little bit was necessary. So nothing comes sort of for free, and nothing is wasted also. So we have to just sincerely plod on. But when incarnation comes in our life, then everything becomes quite easy. So grab the opportunity. Very good. Any more questions, discussions? This is better than all that talking, eh?
Swamiji, I want you
Yes.
to ask, so is there any reincarnation, anybody at present?
Any incarnation that I know, in the present. I know in the past one.
Yeah, past one we are following Rama Krishna.
Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Christ,
Yeah,
Rama,
I know,
Krishna, all that. I haven't met any current one. If you meet one, you can tell me.
Or all enlightened ones?
Oh, enlightened ones are always there. Very difficult. They are always there, but very difficult to find because they mostly do not reveal themselves. You see? Why the people will trouble them endlessly.
Yeah.
They will go and say, cure my disease, give me money, get me a job promotion, let my have children, or all these stupid things they will ask.
Yeah.
So they are very, very careful.
So Swamiji was, there was something called Sai Baba.
Oh, now we are going into some controversial area. See, there might be devotees out there. Let's drop that one.
No, he's just just
Actually,
case or no of enlightenment or what?
I do not know. I never met him. Did you? How do I know? How do you answer that question? See, truly, we just hear from people. His devotees believe, and so it's fine with them. But I personally cannot comment because I haven't met. I haven't read about his life also, and therefore cannot say. But coming to that other story, so there was this person, whether he was enlightened or not, we do not know, but was a sadhaka, and some people went, one young man went to him and constantly pestering him, Babaji, kuch kar do, give me something, some blessing, something like this, and he was, having difficult times. So at the end of the day, some Babaji sadhu said, okay, he pulled one hair out of his hand, take this, and gave it to that man. And then his luck and life and everything changed. People in the village found out, suddenly, this man is doing so well and everything. So they came and asked him, so what happened? And this man made the mistake of saying, I went to this Babaji and I asked his blessings, and he just pulled his one hair out and gave it to me. And you see what happened. And you guess what happened after that? The whole village went and pulled his hair out, finished. All the hairs out. So you see, he invited all that problem because people are just interested in themselves. So, all right. So next Tuesday we will continue with the Pratyabhijna Hrudayam. We're coming towards the end of that, and then wrap up this another couple of verses of chapter 13.
Is there satsang on Sunday?
Oh, satsang is there on Sunday, yes.
Okay.
I'll send the invitation email
Thank
soon.
you. Mm.
Okay, let's conclude. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Okay. All
Thank you,
right.
Swamiji.